concerns connecting the grassroots women to the greater support in ensuring that more women are in governance and leadership. And to make this topic easy, I'm going to break and focus on 3 special categories of women, which is the married women, the civil servants, and the entrepreneurs. I'd like to say that today, I believe that irrespective of the data that holds that there are more men than women in Nigeria, I think there are actually more women. There are actually more women as a Nigerian population. We have it that we are a population of 200 million people. If actually it's so, then I believe that women make about 120 million. It's evidential in our daily lives. If you go to the marketplaces, even on polling on election days, there are more women that turn out to vote. But most often, these women are only used as tools to ensure that male leaders are elected. And when we have more men in leadership spaces, invariably, we have them churn out policies that favor the male folks alone. And year after year, tenure after tenure, we have found the women relegated. Our concerns are not met. The needs of our children are ignored. How then do we take charge of our lives? How then do we ensure that our communities thrive in projecting the concerns and needs of women primarily? Let's talk about the married women. Whether you're in the rural community or in the urban cities, we have married women everywhere. And they have certain concerns that are peculiar to them, even concerns that we don't speak about. Every woman that goes into the union has it to stay there for better or worse, till death do them part. But today in Nigeria, in the circumstances that the woman is widowed, how safe is that safety net to ensure that she does not suffer? Today we see in a number of cultures that women are subjected to the most ridiculous cultural practices, whereby without any investigations, the woman is termed to be the murderer of the husband. She is made to drink waters bathing the cups. After bathing the cups, she's made to drink these waters. Her children, if she has younger children, they are most likely chased out of the house. No one cares about the tuition. Married women, wherever they are, they have a silent fear in their hearts that may God preserve the lives of their husband, or else the worst will befall them. And for many whose husbands stay to the old ages, they also have another fear of being knocked out or sent out of their homes. Maybe after committing 20, 30, or 40 years, the husbands will come forth and say, you know what, I want to marry a second wife, therefore neglecting her. And that is a concern of most housewives, I would say. Another question is, where is the safety net for that woman? Do we have shelters for abused women? Women who suffer domestic violence? How well is society protecting and prepared to support these women? But you see, if a woman vying for a political position has a chance of campaigning to the married women in Nigeria, and in clear terms communicates to them, if you vote me in, I will ensure I strengthen the laws that will provide a safety social net for you and your children. Don't you think that those married women will give their vote to that particular female that is vying for the position? Are you following me? I have identified the problems a married woman faces. Mind you, I said this conversation is going to break the Nigerian woman into 3 different groups: the married woman, the entrepreneur, and the civil servant. And I'm going to take my time to explain the few challenges each of these groups, these women have, And then you, those of you who are vying for political offices, if you can relate with them, with these women, individually to their concerns, whether they voice them or not, but because you're a woman, you understand that this woman could have these feelings, these fears. If you can connect with them, then there would be a meeting of the mind. It's all about relativity. Do you understand what I'm saying? So I have projected and identified some. If you are meeting a crowd of married women, I bet you most of the women here could be married. If you are not married, you could have been married, maybe divorced. And even if you would decide to be single, it's still fine. But most women who are married today in Nigeria have certain fears in their hearts. Abandonment, whether their spouses are alive. And perchance they are bereaved when their husbands die. What lays beyond the walls of the house that their husbands have protected them? How will the community treat them? Nigeria today, as it stands, has zero safety nets for women that fall into these two vulnerable groups. And if you are a woman vying for elective position, it is left for you to connect to the woman by preaching to her that you are going to mitigate, you are going to fill in the gaps that exist in the laws, so that any woman that is married and decides to even be a housewife will know that perchance marriage fails her, perchance home fails her, perchance the community fails her, the government or will provide a healthy social net for her. So if you are here and you are a politician, or you have intentions of vying for a political office, this is one of the key points you can use to, well, you have to believe that, not that you would just speak words that have no meanings, because I've seen sometimes women go into want to vie for political offices and just cram some things and do not have empathy or connectivity with what they intend to say, and they read out empty manifestos. But you have to sell yourself. You have to sell a relatable idea to the Nigerian woman, especially the married folks, and ensure them that when you get voted, you will prioritize their well-being, you will prioritize their care, you will prioritize their worth. So that is just one part. If you are for the civil servants, we have a larger number of Nigerian women who are civil servants. Whether in the rural communities, you see them as primary health care workers or teachers in the community schools, and in the urban cities you see them as ministry workers and all that. I will say this, women in that category also have their own fears and worries, and if you're worried why Nigerian women don't vote for women, maybe because Nigerian female politician has not sold herself enough to that class. Now, what are the concerns that a woman in the civil service has? Number one, we all know that the female workers earn a bit less than their male counterparts. And that happens not just in Nigeria, but in many parts of the world. It's always a struggle for equality. It's always a struggle for equality. If there's a chance for promotion, most likely the male folks will be given the gap for promotion and they prioritize the promotion before the woman. And unfortunately, something that is not being addressed enough is the sexual harassment in workplaces. I know I have had a lot of women, even I myself standing here, I experienced it while I was in the civil, while I was working. Before a woman is being promoted or before a woman is assigned her due training, sometimes she's been enticed to sleep with her boss before that. But for the male folks, it's hardly, I don't think, especially now that we're beginning to see the LGBT rights and all that, maybe some men will have some advances from the superior male folk, but what is the norm most often that is not spoken is the fact that the female workers are being subjected to sexual harassment by their bosses, and nobody is addressing that. No one is speaking about that. As a matter of fact, even if a woman finds the courage to take legal actions against the boss for sexual harassment, I don't think she will get any justice in court. As a matter of fact, the society will further shame her. and criticize her. And if she's married, that could even be posed as a ground for divorce. Now, as a female politician, how do you sell yourself to that class of women? Have you looked at the labor laws? Madam Minister, I hope you will find a way of addressing that. Have you looked at the labor laws? If you become a House of Reps member, a parliamentarian, or a governor, or a president as a woman, what reforms do you think you're going to bring to the civil service space that will encourage a fairer and even balanced office for the Nigerian woman? I mentioned lack of the unequal pay, unequal growth opportunity, sexual harassment, amongst many others. I remember many years ago, I was trying to, I was just out of a brass LNG where I worked for 5 years, and I was trying to get into an office. I sent my CVs to a number of highly placed persons. And there was a particular minister who told me, Natasha, I know you are very intelligent and you'll be quite resourceful, but unfortunately, I cannot have you in my office because you will be a distraction to me. And I was like, how do you mean, sir? He said, I will not be able to close my eyes a day without thinking of having you to myself. I appreciated his honesty, even though I found that very odd for him to have even thought of that, but that was it. So imagine if I wanted to take it a step further, maybe out of desperation. What will I say? It doesn't matter, sir. Go ahead, I don't mind. Do you? And that is the reality. Many women will say, you know what? It's okay, at least he fancies me. Sorry, is it my time? Yes. Oh, sorry, let me just round up the last part of it. So now we've spoken about that. The third part is the SMEs, the entrepreneurs. We have entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs in the villages, the rural areas, and in also the urban areas. But then, how do we sell, you as a politician, how do you key into the ideals or the concerns of the female entrepreneur? If you ask a typical person, they will tell you there are more female entrepreneurs in the urban areas, but that's not true. Most of the female entrepreneurs today are in the rural communities. Almost everybody in my village, speaking for every woman, whether she's married or single, she has one thing doing or the other. Either she's a cloth weaver, or she churns the shea butter for sale, or she's a gari seller, whatever it is. The majority of the Nigerian female entrepreneurs are in the rural villages. But then what concerns, how do you sell change to them? I'll have to speak louder. How do you sell yourself as a politician to these women? You identify with their challenges. Access to finance, access to market, branding, capacity building. All of these are major concerns of the female entrepreneur. So if you as a woman are vying for any position and you want to ensure that you're actually bringing about change and reform, and you want the votes from that particular rural woman or wherever she is in the urban areas, and she's an entrepreneur, it's left for you to devise means whereby you can actually come to her aid by bringing about reforms in the SME spaces.